Hello, good evening from Command and Camera Centre. It's Chris here, and we're back again with yet another live installment seminar Q&A session. Yeah, everything you kind of need to know about portrait photographer and travel photography from the absolutely awesome Tommy Reynolds, guys. So we finally managed to get Tommy. I first saw this young man absolutely selling dreams at the photography show about 3 or 4 years ago on the Pixapro stand, and I thought to myself, right, we gotta get him. And here we are, 4 years down the line. Not ideal because we have to do it digitally, but hey, things like StreamYard, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube have been fantastic for us in these very very strange times. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring Tommy into this live, and yeah, we're gonna find out everything that you want to know about this absolutely fantastic photographer. So, Tommy, hopefully he's ready. I'm just going to go down here now. Let's click him in. Add to stream. Let's just unmute you there, dude. Oh, there we go.
Hey, can you hear me?
There we go, and we're in. We're there. There we go, dude. I do apologise. There we go. That's the. Let's hope that's the first and last technical hiccup of the evening. But hello, mate. How are you? All right. Oh, there we go. Hang on, bear with me. I've lost you there a minute. I have lost you there a minute. Let's have a look. What's going on? What's going on? There we go. I do apologize. A couple of technical issues. We're just reconnecting Tommy's mic a moment. And let's hit the unmute button. Hang fire 2 seconds, guys. He is here, though. He is here, though. There we go. It was bound to happen. There we go.
Hear me now?
Whatever you're doing there, mate, that's it. We've got you. Brilliant. Brilliant.
I am not going to touch anything now. Okay, this is the beauty of live, eh, Krish? This is why people come and watch live. They want to see people like me mess up and see. Oh, he is human. Things do go wrong. Even.
Do you know what? Do you know what, guys? Just before we jumped into this live, right, me and Tommy, and it was going swimmingly, wasn't it, pal? We got all of the graphics up, and it was great. It was bound to happen, mate. It was bound to happen. Tommy, thank you so much for joining us this evening, mate. I hope you're all right. Are you okay? Are you keeping well?
Krish, it's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for asking me to come along. I'm doing really, really well. Thank you. Not too bad, all considering.
Amazing. Really glad to hear it, pal. Really glad to hear it. So, I mean, the first question is, how have you? Oh, I do apologise. There we are. That's the second one. That's my light gone. But there we are. The show must go on. The show must go on. There we go. How you been keeping busy during both our lockdown periods and things, mate?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one. So I know that you're in Wales, and here in England, where I am, we are in our second lockdown, which is ending. Well, it's supposed to end on the 2nd, but we just found out today that Kent, where I'm in, is in tier 3, which is the worst one. So we don't know how much longer we're going to be continuing our lockdown. But going back to the first lockdown, it was obviously interesting for everyone, especially creatives, and it was trying to keep creatively fulfilled, which is not great for us, I think it's fair to say that creatives can suffer with anxiety at times, and I certainly did during the first lockdown. And I think it's just trying to keep busy, trying to find ways of keeping yourself busy. So I started doing online coaching. That was one of the biggest things that I did over the first lockdown. Was I wanted to offer anyone the opportunity to learn or be coached by me, but they could pay whatever they want. So my way of giving something back, you can literally pay me whatever you want. And fast forward to the day, I've just hit my 50th person that I've spoken to from all over the world, and it's been so lovely to chat with so many other like-minded people. And you mentioned the photography show, and that's why I like going to the photography show as well. It's just so nice to be in a room full of other like-minded people, because in our industry, if you're a freelance, it can be a bit lonely sometimes. So it's really nice that you can have events like that, or doing the thing that I'm doing with Zoom online coaching. So that's been one of the major things that's been keeping me preoccupied, and trying to do YouTube videos from home or from my home studio as well. That's how I've been trying to keep myself busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anybody that follows you on social media would have seen that. Mate, you're very, very active on there. You do boast a rather large following as well, dude. And is that part of the the Tommy Reynolds drive? Is that the part of the drive to keep making content for all of your sort of your dedicated followers, as it were?
To be honest, it's not specifically for the audience.
Sure.
I'm the reason I started YouTube way back in the day was because I wanted to make an archive. So for those listening and you've not heard of me or seen any of my work, a lot of my YouTube is tutorials, but a lot of what I really enjoy doing on my YouTube, as well as my tutorials, is personal work, and I do a lot of behind the scenes videos of my photo shoots. And the whole reason I got into YouTube in the first place was because I wanted to have an archive. I wanted to be able to look back on in years to come and just see what we did back in the day. Sure. And it wasn't until I posted one of my first behind the scenes videos that I noticed the tremendous amount of engagement I received off of that video. Mm-hmm. Bearing in mind I'd maybe shared some of the images from that same shoot a few days before, and the engagement was fine. Mm-hmm. But when the behind the scenes video came out, which accompanied those shots, the engagement was phenomenal. And it was kind of a light bulb moment for me that this was turning into something of my USP. And I just wanted to make behind the scenes videos that I would want to watch, make them a little bit more cinematic, and try and give you as the audience as much context as possible so that you know exactly what went in to get that shot. Sure. And that's been my drive, and it's still my drive even today, is to just create an archive. And because I'm really into filmmaking as well. So as well as photography, I've got a huge passion for filmmaking as well. So I'm kind of mixing the two arts within behind the scenes videos, and that's kind of been the driving force, is the love right there for it.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely, mate. And it comes across, you do speak very passionately, in other lives that I've seen. Obviously, having, as I said, having spotted you at the photography show and places like that where you can, the reins are off, you can almost come alive, as it were, and show the world what you do. It's one of those things. But I'll tell you what we're going to do, buddy. If that's all right with you, let's go back, let's rewind a little bit, okay? And let's tell the audience, people that don't know who you are, where it all started. Where did Tommy Reynolds, the photographer, when was that born, mate?
Do you know what? I'd said to my mum when I was 7 years old, I said to my mum, I want to be a photographer, because the first camera I ever got from my mum was a Wallace and Gromit wind-up camera, and I still have that sitting on the shelf in my studio. And I told my mum when I was 7 I'm going to be a photographer, and she went, "Oh, that's nice, Tom." And I did it at GCSE, and it was taught from a very artistic point of view. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was I wanted to learn the technicalities of it. I didn't really understand manual mode. Mm-hmm. And when it came time to decide what I wanted to do at university, I didn't want to continue that artistic approach, and that is what I'd learned it was going to be like at university. So I didn't want to do that, and that was actually how I transitioned into doing filmmaking at university. But it was while I was at uni, I was still picking up the stills camera, and I was shooting music photography, and that was kind of the first thing that I started getting into. And it was a huge confidence boost having a DSLR. It really was. All of a sudden I had confidence to walk up to people or band members and say, "Hey, my name's Tommy. I've just photographed your band. Here are the shots. You're welcome to use them." And in a weird way, that's how I started like gaining friends and getting my confidence up, was having this excuse hanging from around my neck. So I owe a lot in my life to this art form, photography, and that's kind of how it all kind of began there. So from university and leaving university and then getting a job and then doing it full time, that was kind of the transition, really.
Amazing stuff, mate. Amazing. Yeah, just following that sort of passion and stuff. Excellent stuff, mate. What was your as a lead on for that? What was your first major job, Paul? In terms of in the realms of photography, what was your first? What was the job that let's say I'm Tommy Reynolds Photography and I have arrived. Like, can you pinpoint that moment? Can you pinpoint it?
I think I can. It was it was the first time my first big travel trip. My first big travel trip was when I went to Sri Lanka with a charity, and the way I was able to get on to working with the charity was, it's a charity called Take Heart Mersey Mission, and it's a charity that go to Sri Lanka every year, and it's a group of doctors, surgeons and nurses from the Evelina Children's Hospital, and they go to the Karapatia Hospital in Galle, Sri Lanka, and they perform pediatric heart surgery for free for a couple of weeks every year. And my job was to go over there and make a promotional video, and it was whilst I was making the promotional video. So back in the day, this is when I was using a 5D Mark II, which at the time was revolutionary for filmmaking, but it was but obviously it's a stills camera as well. So it was very easy for me to just flick it from movie mode to stills mode and just capture a few shots, just for my own thing really. And it was during that trip that I realized, oh my God, I love the stills aspect. I love photographing whilst I'm away, whilst I'm abroad, whilst traveling, documenting what I was seeing. It was a different art form to the promotional video. So everything I photographed on that trip was with just a standard 24-105 f4 lens. And I had a shoulder rig on, so every time I would wanted to take a portrait, I'd flick it to stills mode and hold it up here, and all of a sudden this big shoulder rig was just hanging in the air. But it was easy for me to do that, for easily flick it to video to stills, and it was during that trip that I got some of my favorite images, and we're going back about 5 years now, and they're still kind of some of my highlights, which I can even show you today actually.
Brilliant, excellent, and yeah, guys, we'll be jumping into a couple of Tommy's images in just a moment, and we'll all have the opportunity to dissect, as it were. More importantly than that, Tommy, it gives it, it's going to give us hopefully a little bit of an insight into your inner workings, as it were, mate. So really looking forward to that. But I have a few more questions for you, buddy, just before we get on to the good stuff. Okay,
go on, yeah.
So moving on from that, dude. You touched on the 5D Mark II there. How's your kit bag sort of evolved now that you're a lot more established as a photographer, as a professional?
Interesting, because I've only had one other camera since the 5D Mark II.
Wow,
and that's the 5D Mark III, which I still have. I've had it for 8 years now. I've had it for 8 years, and I am very tempted, not going to lie, with the R5. It's been the first mirrorless camera that has really made me contemplate going mirrorless. But at this moment in time, I actually started with Nikon. That was the first proper DSLR I invested in. I had a Nikon D40. That was my first proper DSLR, and then I progressed to the D300 Nikon. And then I was looking at the D5 at the time, or is it D3? It probably would have been the D3 at the time, actually. And then my friend, we were on a filming job together. I was using the Canon XM2. I actually shared it on my Facebook recently from 11 years ago. It was the Canon XM2 mini DV camcorder with the tape.
I know the one. Yes, yeah.
Do you remember it?
I can picture it now. Yeah.
It was a great camcorder. I loved it. You remember back in the days, Krish, where we had to capture all of our footage before we could even start editing? Nothing digital. Yeah. Got to turn it from analog to digital first.
Absolutely, yeah. How spoiled we are to have flip-out screens on cameras now.
Oh, yeah.
And electronic viewfinders.
Exactly, yeah. Because I remember that camera had the option to go 4.3 or 16:9. Like, why would we ever shoot 4.3 now, right?
yeah, exactly. Oh, what a madness, mate. Yeah, that takes you back a little bit, doesn't it?
It does, but so me and my friend were doing a filming job, so we both owned one of these cameras, and he had just bought the 5D Mark II at the time, and he said, I'm going to do a little bit of filming now with the 5D Mark II. And I said, filming on a DSLR, that's cute, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he brought his laptop with him, and we were doing a music thing, and it was during the interval. He had already loaded some of the files to his laptop, gave me a pair of headphones. He went, oh, come and have a look at this. And I was obviously filming one angle with the XM2, and he showed me the angle for the 5D Mark II. Literally, my jaw was dropping at the quality. And within a week, I sold all my Nikon gear and got the 5D Mark II within a week. I was so blown away with it. And I've been Canon ever since, really. I've used a plethora of other cameras and liaised with brands and their cameras, but something does keep bringing me back to Canon. So it's gone from a couple of Nikons to a couple of Canons, and that has been it. That's been my camera bag, really.
Absolutely, Paul. Yeah, and you know what? If it ain't broken, don't fix it, isn't it?
100%. I also a quote that I always like to say that my friend says. He always says, if you buy what you don't have as well. So if you've got a really nice camera, or maybe let's go lens. If you've got a really nice lens, rather than improve the lens, get a focal range maybe that you don't even own. I think that's always a good tip. So that you're quite right. Don't fix it if it's not broke. Don't fix it if it's not broken. But also buy what you don't have. Like, you could have a $5,000 lens, but if you haven't got maybe a softbox and a strobe, maybe if you've got no lighting and you're in a dark room, you know, that $5,000 lens is not going to help you out. I would sooner have a kit lens and a strobe than a $5,000 lens and no lighting.
Appreciate that, part. And has that actually, it's funny you said that, part, because that brings me nice and smoothly into our next question, really, mate.
See what I did there, Chris?
Yeah, I love that, mate. That's it. It's not even pre-planned, Paul. We're just on the same wavelength. I love it. I think it's great. But no, the question in hand, Paul, is obviously I've noticed that you do. I'm not sure if you're affiliated fully with Pixapro, or if you just you sort of do bits and bobs with the brand. But where was the transition between using natural light and then adding the strobe? Because I know you do you kind of mix it up with the studio stuff as well. But when you're out on location, what prompts that? What prompts that to, do you know what? I might take a softbox and a portable light with me today, just to I don't know, fill in shadows. And what's the thought process behind that? And kind of where did that all start?
My affiliation with Pixpro started. It was quite soon into being a freelance, which is, I think I got I actually know the year. It was 2015, 2016 is when I got associated with Pixapro, because 2016 was my first year at the photography show. That's how I remember it. But before then, I was using Westcott. I was using there's another one. It will come back to me. Lasterlight. I was using Lasterlight.
Sure.
I was using those two brands. The Rapid Box when it came to the Westcott. That was my first kind of proper softbox, and I had a Yongnuo flash gun, which I was using for weddings as well. So I had I don't know if you'll remember this, Chris, or if they're still around, but you might know, being working in the camera store. But
sure, go on. Yes, indeed. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So I had a very basic Harnell trigger receiver system on my Canon and on the receiver, but it obviously was so old school that I still had to kind of run to the flash to change it. It was literally only sending the signal.
That's it. It's what do they call it? It's a capture. It's a Capture Pro trigger set, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah.
That's the one.
There we go. For $52.99 retail on our website, guys. Links in the description below.
You're welcome.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
It was that, and it was a Yongnuo flash, which only cost £40 on Amazon. It wasn't obviously at the time it didn't have the receiver built in, because that's why I had the Harnell receiver. No TTL, nothing like this. So it was the cheapest of cheapest chips that you could get. So, and it was and the Westcott actually was a newer purchase. So right before then, forgive me, I can't remember who the brand was, but it was a square shaped 60 by 60. It was the one that folds into a circle and it can pop up.
That's it, a little pop out softbox. That's it.
that was the first ever off-camera flash system that I was using. So the whole system cost me just under £200 for all of it. That was the first system I had, and then when it progressed to working with Pixapro, so I've always been fascinated with like off-camera flash is one of my huge passions. I love to be able to turn the ordinary into something extraordinary, and
Sure.
the approach I had with Pixpro, I just reached out to them. It was actually me that I just reached out to them and said, I've made a couple of behind the scenes videos. So as I said previously, you know, when I started my YouTube, I wanted to just make really cool behind the scenes videos. So at this point, I had made 2 really nice ones that I was really proud of, and I sent the behind the scenes videos to Pixapro instead of just images. I sent the behind the scenes videos,
Right.
and I said, is there any chance that maybe you and I can collaborate? Is there any chance I can borrow a couple of pieces of equipment, and in exchange I'll feature them in the video, etc. And they were so impressed with the behind the scenes video, they pretty much gave me the catalogue and said, what would you like to borrow?
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
but what's really nice, and I've said this story a few times, so forgive me if people have heard this before, but I just think it's worth saying if people haven't heard it. But fast forward years later, I spoke to the CEO of Pixpro. His name's Yang, and I said, out of interest, Yang, when I originally approached you way back in the day, and I gave you those behind the scenes videos, would you have taken a chance on me and chose to work with me if you hadn't seen a behind the scenes video, not the photos, but a
Sure.
video?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
he said, no, probably not.
Wow.
And I said, why is that? And he said, well, with the video, we can kind of see how you interact with the model, the space you used, how you treated the gear, what you used, and the setup and the story, and obviously you know, it's another medium, you know, a video, it's something else you're delivering as well. So that's kind of what made us go for you. So I find it interesting that why behind the scenes videos do so well, and it's that level of engagement, and brands just latch onto that, and it's just another deliverable that you can deliverable. It's just something else that you can give to a client if it's something you can do. If you can deliver a video, then they're much more likely to say yes and latch onto that. And obviously that was in 2016, and now today I have a very close relationship with Pixapro. We make almost one video a month, budget depending. So going back to your question, how it kind of progressed, it progressed from just borrowing a couple of pieces of gear. Then it transitioned to Yang actually saying, oh, Tommy, you're going to make another video this month. And I actually said, I can't make one this month because I can't afford to. I can't afford to pay my video guy, the usual thing. And he said, how much does he charge? So I gave him the fee and the rough cost of one of my shoots. And he was like, we'll fund it.
Wow.
So that was the transition after, and this wasn't quick. It may have been at least half a year, maybe a year, where that conversation happened. And then it progressed even further to, we now want to pay you, you know, a fee, a flat fee for making these videos. So it was a slow progression, and that's all because of you building that relationship with that brand, with that client, and that's how I've been able to affiliate with these other brands. It's all about the relationship and the brand awareness, and you know,
absolutely,
reaching to them. And I know I've gone off on a tangent there.
No, that's okay. That's all right, Paul. No, it's so interesting to hear, because that's the one thing, you know. Some people might be sat there and thinking, well, brand ambassador, you know, that's you know, it's almost an unattainable thing, isn't it? I mean, you're always reaching for that next level. So it's great to get an insight, a first-hand insight into, you know, just how you got there, mate. And what you failed to mention in between that year and a half is just a bucket load of hard work, mate. You missed that one out, Paul. But no, I imagine it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, Paul. But you've got to stick to your grind, haven't you? That's the thing.
Yeah,
you know?
I think you definitely do. I think it's easy now in this day and age to get bogged down with the likes and feeling that you have to make content to please anyone. Like, I think it's really damaging when I hear content creators say, what would you like to see from my YouTube? What would you like to see more of on my YouTube? I'm like, I want to see more of what you want to do and not be influenced by what anyone else wants to do. I'm not going to ask you what you want from my YouTube.
No, no, no,
you'll either watch it or you won't. And I know that sounds quite selfish, or but I make
yeah,
content for me and my loved ones. I always love this thing that Brene Brown, a beautiful author, and she says she has a purse, and I do this as well now in my wallet. In my wallet, I have a list of 5 names, and those 5 names are the people that I really care about, that mean a lot to me, and they're the people I make content for. So I've got, my other half, my fiance, I've got Michael Mowbray, my cinematographer, I've got Andy, my best mate, and I've got, a few other people who, they know me, they know my work better than anyone else, and they know my flaws, they know my weaks and strengths, and I make content for them,
bro.
no one else. And that's
That's
what you should make, who you should make
That's
content for.
that's quite that's quite an inspirational thing, actually, pal. I've never, in all, I've been doing these lives for a while now, mate. I've not heard anything like that, pal. So big up to you, buddy. I really like that. I really like that, guys.
Cheers, Chris.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing, pal. You blow my mind. You blow my mind. Do you know what? We're half an hour in, pal. We haven't even looked at a single image yet. So there we go. It's going well. It's going well.
Oh, good.
Right, here we go. So this is right. So what we're going to do now, Tommy, if that's okay, buddy, I'm going to go into your shared screen now, because I believe you've got some images that we're all fortunate enough this evening to have a little look at. These are some of your favorite images. I think that was the brief I sent you a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
So guys, we're going to have a little look at some absolutely fantastic images from Tommy. He's been quite secretive. He hasn't shown me, so I don't have any preconceptions. But come on, let's give him a hard time. All right, get in the comments and join in. So let's go. Here we go. If we do that and that, you should hopefully be seeing. There we go. So image number 1. Tommy, talk us through it, buddy. What's going on in this shot?
Cool. First of all, can you see the screen, and can you see me as well, or is it just the screen, my screen?
I can. So at the moment, mate, the way I've got it navigated is me and you are over to my left-hand side, and we can see the image nice and large in the middle there.
Lovely. Okay, no worries. So, so this image is from that Sri Lanka trip that I was talking to you about, and you asked me, what was the job or the thing that turned my work into what it is. So I think this was definitely the start. This was from that very first trip. So this is in the ICU at the Karipati Hospital, and this was when I was doing a bit of filming and decided for the very first time to flick my 5D Mark II into stills mode and take some images. And it was not until I didn't even know I'd got anything good. Like I didn't think at the time, oh my god. It wasn't until my oh my god moment happened when I came back to the hotel, and just the images I got here. And do you know what, actually, no, I've just remembered another story. So another reason why I chose to take stills is because everyone on the team that went every year, they all knew each other. And this was my first year. I was the newbie. And every evening, we would all eat together on a big table at the hotel. And I thought to myself, just to kind of get myself in with the group, what I would do was I would go back to the hotel, and rather than rest for an hour before dinner, I would be editing the images that I took that day, put them on an iPad, and then go down to dinner with my iPad, and it would literally be passed around the room, around the table, of the images that I took that day. And I did this every day while I was there, and seeing the response that I was getting from those from the team, and the feeling that I was feeling when I was looking back at the images, I knew that this was the start of something big. And this was my first big travel trip. And this is I think her name's Lynn. She's the head nurse at the Karipati, or the children's the pediatric section at the Karipati, at the Evelina Children's Hospital in London. And this little girl, as they all were, they were having heart surgery. And I actually have an image from the same day of her moments before surgery that I'd love to share with you now. Let me just go back.
Pop it on there. You're on full screen now, buddy. So you carry on. Okay.
No worries.
Oh, wow, what a powerful photo. What a powerful photograph. Wow.
So this was the same. This when I caught this moment, and again, sometimes I'm so caught up in what's happening around me. I mean, it's not every day that someone like me is in an operating theatre in the middle of Sri Lanka. So again, I took images and I didn't know I'd got something good until I had proper time to go back to the hotel and digest. And again, this is the same little girl, and for me it's just that teardrop that's just rolling down her face, and she's just said goodbye to her mum, and her mum's walking out of the room crying. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful moment, and it's so raw, and it's almost makes me choke just thinking about it, of how scared she was, of how scared mum was. But she had an absolutely amazing recovery, and even the following year when I went back with the team, she came back for a checkup, and it was so lovely to see her, and she recognized me, she gave me a wave, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful moment. So again, these images were taken within hours of each other, and it just made me realize just how powerful a still image can be. Video certainly has its advantages over stills, but in this moment, you couldn't beat the still over the video I was shooting at that moment.
It's both of those images, they're very packed full of narrative, aren't they? Just as a visual, that's a visual punch in the face, that is. Do you know what I mean? You look at that, you know, sometimes images just get you, like, you know, that's and was this, do you know what I mean? Did you have a moment to kind of set your camera, or is this just whatever settings were on there at the time of you kind of holding it up to your eye, or what was it? You know, how quickly was this shot taken? You know, that's the thing.
It's a really good question. To be honest, because for those of you who know about video, if I was shooting at a frame rate of 25 frames per second, and as some of you might know, the general rule of thumb would be the shutter speed would be double your frame rate. So I was at 1/50th of a second on my shutter speed. So I didn't really, as Krish, as you said, I didn't have a long time really to adjust settings. So what I would literally do was, if I'm filming, I knew that I was correctly exposed because I'm already filming. So I would then flick it to stills mode and then just take the shot on whatever it is. Okay, in stills mode, ideally, I would like a faster shutter speed, but I know that if I do that, I've got to compensate with the aperture, and I was shooting everything at f4, filming everything at f4 because it was only an f4 lens.
Sure.
So I didn't really have time to make too many adjustments, especially in this particular moment right here with the teardrop. So most of the images from Sri Lanka are shot at 1/50th of a second because I was filming seconds beforehand. So that's kind of the idea around it. So I just had, I mean, it has IS, let's not forget that. That's another reason why I love that lens. I love that lens for video because of the focal range and the image stabilization. So yes, I was at 1/50th, but the IS did helps for sure.
Definitely, mate. And actually, do you know, f4, that sort of aperture, f4, 5.6, because you've got a bit of, you know, you've got a slightly shallower depth of field just there off into the background. But certainly on the other shot, it would be a very different image if you'd have shot that at, let's say, you know, f2.8. You know, you would almost, you know, you kind of lose a lot of the you know, all the machinery, the wiring, actually the way that the windows are in that composition as well. I just, there's something about it. You've nailed it as it were. You know, you kind of nailed it on there. And sometimes that just happens, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? You just pick up the camera, you take the shot, and you've got it, like, you know.
Yeah, it was certainly a wake up call. I mean, you look at all the machinery and like how, forgive me, it's very messy compared to how you might see an ICU here in England, and they would even admit that you know, they're not as hygienic conscious as we are in the UK. But it's just, even just like the chair next to it, like it's an old metal chair, it feels very cold and rustic, and you see all the tubes behind it. Just doesn't look as clean as you might think it would look like. I mean, and this actually, in comparison, this is the cleanest room in the hospital, being the ICU. So I mean, I was in other bays where the beds were inches away from each other, and sometimes they didn't even have a mattress to lean on. It was just a piece of cardboard. That's all they were leaning on, and they were inches away from the next bed along. But
It's
I
mad.
just love the image because of the look in her eyes. I don't know how this is translating, being it's sharing a screen, but maybe if I zoom in again, it might be a bit blurry what you're seeing. But it's just the look in her eyes and all the tubes everywhere. Like she's just, it's 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 hard to put it into words. But this was the moment, Chris, that I realised how powerful a still could be, and it was the start of um of shooting travel, shooting a lot more travel. So almost
Brilliant.
everything on this trip was naturally lit, and it was when I came back the following year to Sri Lanka that I brought that first kit that I mentioned, you know, the very basic Yongnuo flash and softbox. It was when I decided, I want to step it up and see if I can get some portraits of people in and around. But this was the first, this image here, this was the first.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, mate. Yeah, fantastic, mate. There we go, guys. Any questions on those two images, guys? Fire them in the comment section. I'm just monitoring that as we speak from both channels. But yeah, dude, let's go on to the next. But
Yeah.
they're going to take some beating, those two, I reckon. Wow.
Okay, this is again, it might be quite more contrasty how you're seeing it, how it's being translated, but okay, this is again from the same trip. This was in Sri Lanka while I was on my moped, my hired moped, that they didn't even need to see my driving license. They just wanted to see me drive up and down to see if I was okay. Which was the first time I'd ever driven a moped before, so
Sure.
I was I was a bit nervous, but anyway, I was driving along the coast, and I see to my left this massive commotion happening down on the beach. Everyone is gathering around, and I thought it's probably something worth photographing. So I pulled the moped up, grabbed the camera, ran as fast as I could down to the beach, and everyone was huddled around something, and then a wave crashed through everyone's ankles, and I saw blood, and I thought, God, has someone died? Has someone been stabbed or something? So I pushed my way to the front and saw this massive, to this day I'm not even sure what it is. It's some sort of massive fish, but it was it was apparently they weighed it the following day, and it was like like 500 kilo animal of something, and you can see that they're pulling it up on the shore, they're gutting it. And again, you know, I mentioned before how I film everything at 1/50th of a second. So again, the shutter speed here is at 1/50th of a second. And again, in an ideal world, I would have liked to have had a faster shutter speed. But having looked at this image and now reflecting on it, and I was trying to zoom in, I actually love the fact that I was shooting at 1/50th of a second, because it's just, the water is just starting to blur around their ankles, giving it a really cool motion blur. Like you can see that there's some motion, and I guess I must have just got lucky using that particular shutter speed, because most people are relatively sharp, and it's just the water that has that lovely blurry kind of motion to it. And what's really funny is this guy on the left here, he was my tuk-tuk driver the following day, and I only recognised him because he was wearing the same T-shirt, and that's how I got all the info about this shark, this animal that they had found the previous day. So yeah, this is one of my favourite kind of natural light shots that I've taken, because normally now I would instinctively always have a flash with me, but on this occasion, this is just all purely natural light at 1/50th of a second.
Straight in there. Brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant. Again, another fantastic shot. Really, really good. Really striking, you know. It's a real bold sort of style coming through there on those.
Yeah. I love the fact that he's still got time to smoke though during this moment. He's still
absolutely, yeah. Can you punch in on that for us, dude? That's fantastic. Do you know what? It's those little quirky things, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? To spot these photos. Brilliant.
Nothing's going to stop that cigarette.
No, absolutely not. No.
So that's I think so. That's all. Actually, no. I might have one more from Sri Lanka. So this next image was from the following year. So this was the first time I brought some off-camera flash with me. So this is the first time that I was doing some off-camera flash, and okay, it's this lady here. And I actually wrote down some notes when I posted this, so let me just very quickly find them, because this was a few years ago. But what I can remember while I'm finding the image is this is from a tea plantation factory in Sri Lanka, and obviously Sri Lanka is quite well known for its tea, and so I wanted to kind of see if I could find a tea plantation factory. So we went there with a guide, and for those watching, if you're going to travel and take portraits and you want to invest and learn about the people, my number one tip when traveling is always go with a guide. If you can invest and have a guide with you, they are going to open up doors that you never thought were possible. They are going to be able to interact. They're going to be able to allow you to shoot with people that you wouldn't have been able to, because they are the local on the ground. They've got like the communication, they can interact. So definitely having a guide for me is my number one tip when traveling. And so this lady here, her name is Miss Ferracombe. I think she earns about 40p a day, and she has to collect a minimum of 20 kilos of tea leaves per day, or she will not get paid. Simple as that. She will not get paid. And it was such a lovely story. And almost there, almost found the notes. Where is it? It was on my Instagram. Actually, even one better. I've got a little behind the scenes. So for those of you watching, I do on my YouTube have. It's not as nowhere near as cinematic as my work today, because we're going back a few years. But I coined the kind of throwing a GoPro on my backpack, filming whatever I'm photographing, so that I can film and photograph at the same time. And I do actually have the moment I photographed this lady, Miss Ferracombe. And let me see if I can play it for you guys. It will be one of these links. Oh yeah, I think it's this one. Let me see if I can find it. This one's quite a long one. I'm narrating over it, but the others afterwards were a bit more kind of punchy and to the point. But I do have the moment where I photographed Miss Ferracombe. Where is it? I've even got footage of me in surgery where I'm witnessing heart surgery, and that's a weird thing. That's a really unique thing. People ask me afterwards, like, what was it like being in that operating theatre? And I said, you almost have a bit of a disconnect with it, because you're just so focused on the job you're doing, and you're seeing this heart pumping with the chest open, but because you're viewing it through an LCD screen, it was almost like watching TV, even though I was the one filming it, because you're so focused on trying to get that shot. Oh, here it is. Okay. So this is the moment I photographed Miss Ferracombe. Let me roll it back a bit. So I'll take the sound off, but so there she is there. So there you can see there's the Westcott Rapid Box. That's the Yongnuo Flash, £40. Very, very simple stuff. And this is the GoPro filming that's attached to the backpack. And you can see quite often, I didn't have an assistant in the early days, so that's my driver. I would always tip and pay my driver a few extra rupees to come and be my voice activated light stand, which they're always happy to do.
Brilliant.
So here I'm just kind of setting up the shot. And again, so there are other staff members around, and they're able to communicate with Miss Ferracombe if I wanted to tweak and move slightly. Because obviously I can't speak the language, and that's obviously another benefit to having someone. So you can see there, I'm trying my best to communicate. So you quite often have to use big hand gestures or this sort of thing to try and, communicate with someone who doesn't speak your language. So it's very, very interesting. So again, lots of big movements, like yes, that's it. And then here's the shot. So I just said, kind of carry on as you are, do your thing. And I'm really, really happy because this image was shortlisted for a National Geographic competition. It was all about working women around the world, and this was one of the images. So again, it's just giving that pop of light onto the face that I wouldn't have been able to get if I'd have shot this with natural light. If I'd have shot this with natural light, most likely the sky would have been blown out as well. So that's the beauty of using off-camera flash, is that you can balance the ambient of the sky with and then exposing your subject with your flash, and it doesn't have to be expensive. As I said, this whole setup cost me less than £200.
Yeah.
And
were you sort of using high speed sync at this point as a technique, or would your triggers not allow for it? Or
good question, Krish. So again, because the flash was so cheap, I couldn't do high speed sync. So
right.
every single image was restricted to 1/200th of a second, and in some cases I started to see the slight start of my shutter curtain, so sometimes I wouldn't go past 1/160th of a second actually. So
Yeah.
so that's why nearly every photo was around f5 6, or up to f9 or 10, because I simply couldn't go into high speed sync mode. So but in hindsight, I don't mind those apertures. I don't mind shooting. I think shooting at like f2 or 1.4, it would just throw the background out so much. And I kind of like that these images look a bit more commercial, so that you can see the background and it makes it sharper. So even though I was restricted, I wasn't that. I wasn't that worried.
Yeah, absolutely, but yeah, because you're very sort of conscious about the composition, aren't you? So, some people like that obliterated background, beyond the subject. It's kind of, I think a blur on most starts sort of past the subject's ears, and then it's gone. but
exactly. I mean, personally, it's not for me. I think if you've seen my work in the studio, I like to use a lot of textured backgrounds. So naturally, I'm not going to shoot at low apertures. I want to see that, the texture in the canvas and the background. So quite often my go-tos in the studio are around f8, f9, just because I just like to see the detail. Again, here is on screen. Here is another kind of close-up of that Yongnuo flash and the Westcott Rapid Box. So, you don't be afraid to try off-camera flash outdoors, because this is such a tiny setup. When I progressed to my future travel trips, I did sequentially take a bigger softbox, but I did have someone who was coming with me, so I did have that extra pair of hands, which gave me that comfort and not having to worry about, propping this setup, for example, on a stand. I always had someone with me. Actually, I do have. So this was actually a really cool story. So I sent that image of Miss Ferrocombe. I sent this image to the tea plantation factory, and one of the loveliest emails I got was, I put it on my Instagram years ago. Where is it? It was this one. I got an email back with an attachment of Miss Ferrocombe holding my image, because I sent them a print of her in the tea plantation factory holding the print, and that was just like an oh my god, that's so cool moment, that she's holding my image. She's seen it. She finally saw it, and she's got a copy of it. So that was a really cool moment for me. Yeah, really cool moment.
Brilliant. Makes it all worth it, doesn't it? Dude, little moments like that,
100%, man. 100%. Yeah. And it just, seeing the results that I could get using off-camera flash outdoors just took my photography to that next level and made it look more professional. So yeah, it definitely gave me the bug doing more travel. So again, this Sri Lanka trip, it was the following year, but again, I was still there to do a job and film. So it was after this trip that I said, right, the next trip I want to do is going to be just a photography trip. I'm not going to go with the charity and be there to do something else. I want to go there purely just to do my thing and not film. So that's why the following trip was India. We went to Varanasi in India, which is a beautiful place to go in the world. Beautiful place. Do I have a... so here's one from India. So this was using a slightly bigger modifier. This was a 90 centimeter softbox compared to a 60 centimeter softbox. So the shadows are a little bit softer. It wraps around him a little bit nicer. But again, I only took that bigger softbox because I can appreciate that is quite a big softbox. The only reason I took that was because I had assistants with me, so I had that peace of mind. I didn't worry about it falling over. It allowed me to focus fully on my subject and try as best I can to communicate with them despite the language barrier. But I always had someone there with me. So that was India. I wasn't gonna talk really about this image, but I wanted to talk about my next trip, which was Ethiopia, and this was the the first trip that was actually commissioned. I was actually paid to go and do this. So did you want me to talk about that, Krish?
Let's go into it, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you can talk about it, then let's talk about it, pal. Yeah. Hey, listen, the reins are off, pal. Right?
Okay.
As I say, go on, you fire away, buddy.
Do you know what? Before we go there, I just want to show you one more image from another trip. So this was Vietnam. I just want to tell you about this because it's got a really nice story. So so this was in between India and Ethiopia. So again, I'm still using my Canon on this one, but so this is I really love this image. This was from a place called Tam Coc, which is a river in Vietnam, in northern Vietnam. And when we went there, it was actually a last minute excursion. We planned it while we were there. It was for our last day. We thought, let's book Tam Coc on a whim. Maybe we can get a nice shot of someone actually in the rowing boat rowing with us. And that was always the intention, to get that shot. When we arrived, again, like I said, I always have a guide with me. And when we got there, he said, unfortunately, I can't come on the boat with you because there's too many people. You can only have, 2 people plus the guy who's actually rowing. I was like, okay, fair enough. And it wasn't until we were rowing away that I thought, shit, we're not going to be able to talk to him. We haven't even asked him if we can take a photo of him. And he's going to... What's he going to think when we get this massive softbox out of a bag? He's going to think, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
So I went with my fiance, and I was like, should we do it? Like, should we just get it out of the bag? Like, and so I tried to communicate, like, photo. And he was like, yeah. And obviously he probably wasn't expecting this massive softbox to come out of a bag.
That's brilliant.
So we...
Brilliant.
So yeah.
What was his reaction to that, pal, when you did?
He did look slightly confused, but I tried to gesture, flash, big, light. I tried the best I could, but he seemed quite chilled. He seemed quite cool about it. In actual fact, I've got, again, a behind the scenes video on my YouTube channel. Again, I was just having the GoPro attached to my backpack and was trying to film and give you guys at home as much context, so I can show you a little behind the scenes of that setup exactly. Let me go back to my browser. Yeah, okay, it was here. Yeah, so here is the lead up to the moment we took that photo. He was actually, at one point he was rowing with his feet. Look, there he is. He's rowing with his feet there.
That's brilliant.
Look at his face there. Look at his face there. He's like, what is that you've just pulled out of your bag?
You were confusion. Hang on a minute. What's going on here? Sort of thing, isn't it? Oh, dear.
And then here is the photo. Do you know what's funny? As I'm looking through the viewfinder, I'm obviously not seeing exactly where Emily is, but I'm taking the photo, looking at it, seeing that the light direction, I feel like I want it to come more at an angle. So I'm saying to Emily, little bit more right. And then at one point I then actually turned to her and she's like almost half hanging out of the boat. She was like, I can't go any more right, Tom.
yeah, that's it. Oh, brilliant.
And what I really love about the image as well, just purely from a composition point of view, is that his head is in a clean spot. It's not kind of half in the mountains, half out the mountains. It's kind of nicely in this clean spot, and you've got a beautiful catch light in the eye, and he's got a really nice expression. And I always like to ask questions about them and about what they're about, how long have they been doing this, etc., as a caption for the image, because then it just gives you more context. But I couldn't ask anything until we got back to shore, so that I could then ask the guide, about him and all that stuff. Have a guess, Krish. I want you to have a guess. How old do you think this guy is? Let me go back to the image.
Oh, good Lord. Right, let's have I'm going to go for, is he early 70s?
Oh, good. Yeah, you are. You're right. Yes. Yeah.
I've got a feeling. See, because the feet gives it away, pal. That's a seasoned professional. Yeah, that's a seasoned professional, pal. I'm gonna go with 72, pal.
71. Oh, you were
Oh, very, very close.
you
Very.
no, you were very close. I'm really impressed with that. Really impressed. So I wrote. So this was. I'm reading from my Instagram from years ago. So this is what I wrote. So today we went to Tamcock, which is nicknamed the Inland High Long Bay, 2 hours north from Hanoi, and Hanoi is where we stayed. Tamcock is popular tourist spot for the Sappan rowing boat rides, which is obviously this rowing boat ride that we were doing right at this moment. And yeah, his name was New Gun. Well, that was his nickname. And he's 71 years old, and he's been rowing ever since he was 10 years old. 10 years old. Very friendly. He was obviously rowing with his feet, as we saw there. But what was really interesting was one of the questions I asked, and most people don't really give me an answer, but I throw it in anyway. But one of the questions I asked the guy to ask him, I said, "Give me an interesting fact about yourself." And you know what his fact was, Krish?
Go on.
He said, "I was an extra in the King Kong movie,
Wow.
obviously the newer one."
No.
And I was like, "Oh, really?" He went, "Yeah, I was rowing in the background of the introduction scene."
Mate.
And then he said, "This is where they filmed it." And then I looked around and I thought, "This is Skull Island, of course. Look at the background."
Wow, yeah. But no, you said, oh no.
That is where they filmed the introduction scene to the movie King Kong, and he was in the background rowing. And I said to my guide, "Why aren't you telling people this?" Like, I had to almost feed that out of him. Like, that's an interesting fact. So yeah, so that was a really cool story that I wouldn't have known unless I asked the question. Most people don't give me an answer, but on this occasion, I got gold. I was really pleased.
I'm literally gonna. I think it's on Netflix. I'm gonna get King Kong on now, and I'm looking for this dude.
Here we go. Everyone at home, look for this chap in the background in the introduction scene to the movie King Kong. He will be there.
Absolutely brilliant, mate. That's fantastic, part. And I noticed in the video, dude, that you're not aiming that softbox directly at him. You're almost feathering it, and you're shooting from above. Is that right? So it's just the.
So on this, so well, the light, yes, the light was from above and feathered, but my angle is kind of low angle, and
yeah, you're sort of almost shoot. It's like the hero shot, isn't it? You're almost shooting up at him.
Yes, yeah. So we can actually see in this shot here. Hang on, if I pause it, it might not be the exact position. I believe I asked Emily to raise it up a little bit more, because at that angle it's more or less pointing dead center at him. But personally, I like to feather my light, and for me it just feels a little bit more natural when you do feather your light. So for those of you watching at home, if you feather your light, so if you aim so that the bulk of the light is hitting them on the edge, that is actually it's even softer on the edge than it is dead center of the softbox. So if you can aim your softbox so that it's hitting the edge of the light, the edge of the softbox, that is going to give you softer light, but also allowing that other side of the light to come around, to bulk and come around the other side of the face, kind of wrapping around the other side of the face. And that's generally my go-to when it comes to this. And it again, because I'm shooting this with flash and not natural light, that pop of light is just giving me that kiss of commercial, looking a little bit more pro. And again, as I said in the previous image, it's allowing me to expose for the sky. So if you look at in this video, this GoPro image, you can see that it's a very washed out sky. Indeed. But when we look at the image, we can see the cloud detail, and that is because we're using flash, and that's why I just love to use flash.
Sure. And just something we haven't touched on actually, dude, is how much post-processing goes into this. Have you got quite a stringent workflow, or is it pretty basic, or how do you like to approach an image like that? Let's isolate that one, because I know that's quite a broad question, and I know it changes from sort of image to image, but is there a lot gone into that, or
hardly anything? Sure. And I'm not saying that to blow my own. Again, that's what I love about flash. For me, it just feels so polished and stylized, and it feels like it's ready to go straight out of camera. So there is hardly any post-production work happening at all on these images. Maybe I'm tweaking a bit of clarity, a bit of the color. I like to mess around with channel mixer in Photoshop. That's one of my go-tos, is channel mixer. And yeah, that was probably as kind of extensive, if you like, for lack of a better word, as I went when it comes to the editing, tweaking the contrast, tweaking the temperature, tweaking the clarity, and tweaking the channel mixer. Really didn't take me long at all when you know your way around those tools. Yeah, it was no retouching, anything like that. Obviously, I'm not going to do that on an image like this. It was just, yeah. So I tried to spend as little time in the editing in front of my computer as I can. It's comes from my workology as a wedding photographer seasonally, is that I want to spend the least amount of time in front of my computer and spend more time out there shooting. So I'm not someone who does composites, and I appreciate that that's an art form in itself, but for me, I like to get it as close as in camera as I can.
Excellent. And that is, yeah, each their own, buddy. But that's why these are so handy to find out, what goes into these shots, because for the best part, on the other side of the fence, that sky could have been dodged and burned the life out of. Do you know what I mean? So it's there's different techniques, isn't there? There's different techniques, but we always appreciate the in-camera stuff, as well as as you say, the process stuff. There's nothing wrong with how you get to that end goal, is there? But everybody's got their preferences.
No, 100%. I mean, it could be a question for people watching. It's quite an interesting argument. It's that, like, how far do you go with post-processing? Like, do we accept that Photoshop is part of the process? Because you could argue, back in the film days, that you can dodge and burn even in the film days. You go, well, that's still part of photography. So dodging and burning in Photoshop, isn't that still part of photography, would you argue? Or do you not think it's that? Do you think that it's all about trying to get it as close to in-camera as possible? It'd be interesting for people watching what their take on post-production. How far would you go, and do you consider it part of the process?
Absolutely. There we go. Tommy's throwing some questions at you guys. Get into the chat, and let's see what your opinions are, guys. We'd love to hear from you. But Tommy, doing good, pal. Doing good so far. That's four images we've seen so far, is it, dude?
I think so. Yeah. Did you want to? I've got a few more. If you want to see more.
I'm just saying, pal, how are you gonna top those? I'm eager to find out.
Okay, let's have a look. All right, so now we're going to travel to Ethiopia. Now we're going to go to this is my latest trip that I did a couple of years ago. So this is an image I took in Oma Valley, and this was the Mursa tribe, Mursi tribe. This was actually an image I'd almost forgotten about, and this is again another interesting topic that I'd love to bring up with the people following and watching. Is that, Krish, have you ever done a shoot and then come back to it, I don't know, month, 2 months, maybe a year later, maybe even years later? Have you ever gone back to a catalogue or gone back to a set of images, and one, maybe realized that you can edit them better, but two, completely discovered an image that you thought, oh, I completely missed this one, this is a gem and I missed it? I don't know if you've ever experienced that yourself.
All the time, mate. All the time. When you get into that routine of, you chimp a lot on the back of your camera, and you kind of know before you get home that, there's about 3 in there that I know that I absolutely nailed on, Yeah. And you kind of almost automatically, in my workflow certainly, I automatically goes to those images that I know, that could be the one, that could be the one, and the rest just get archived.
Yep.
What lockdown has done, obviously, but for a lot of pros is just sorry, my light's gone again. For a lot of pros is that we've gone into that archive and discovered all the other gems.
100%, yeah.
And thing, isn't it?
No, well, I'm glad you feel the same, because the reason I bring that up is this image was one of those. I'm gutted because I had an exhibition and I never included this one, and because I just forgot about it. But this is an image I came back to from my catalogue and thought there's something in here. And when I shared this image, it's to this day, it's had the most amount of likes than any other image I've ever shared on my Instagram. And this was nearly forgotten about. So for those of you watching at home, go back on old shoots, because you might just have a gem in there that you didn't even know exist. But anyway, so the story of this image. So I went there with my friend Alex. He was my assistant. and this was commissioned by Olympus. So I was approached by Olympus to do this trip. I'd already had my itinerary planned out. So the interesting story of how it all came around was I had said on Instagram and Facebook and stuff that I was planning on doing this trip, but the reality of when I finally dotted up all of the costs involved, I realized that this was actually way more expensive than I thought it was going to be, and it was just out of my budget really. And I'd parked it and forgotten about it, and it wasn't until I was at an event, and a lady called Claire who works at Olympus approached me and said, "We would love to fund your Ethiopia trip if you are, of course, happy to use Olympus instead of Canon." I was like, "Oh my god, of course I will say yes. That's amazing."
In you got the in.
Of course. I almost hesitated when I told her how much it was going to cost, and she said, "Yeah, that's fine." I was like, "Oh my god, so I was buzzing. This was the first time that I was being paid to go and do this trip. And what I want to reiterate again to people watching is that, you know, this wasn't a fluke. This wasn't just this opportunity didn't just happen because of, well, some of it might have been luck, but what I want to get across to people at home is that Claire even said herself, you know, she wouldn't have given me this opportunity if she hadn't seen any of my previous work first, because I'd gone to Sri Lanka. She'd seen the images from there, from Vietnam, from India. You have to prove your worth first. If you want to work with brands, or if you want to do a particular job or photograph, I don't know, trainers like Nike trainers, Nike isn't going to call you up or ask you to do anything if you have no trainers on your portfolio. If you haven't proved your worth first, you are not going to get an opportunity. So you have to prove your worth first. And, you know, that might mean doing stuff for free. That might mean paying it yourself, which is what my personal project's all about. You know, it's got to come from a place of love. And that's how I was able to prove my worth, was because I had a body of work that I could show off to Olympus, and that's how they gave me the opportunity. So I used the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II camera, and that was the camera that I chose. And naturally, I'm going to say this now, I'm not affiliated with any camera brand, but I was nervous about using that camera.
I bet.
I was nervous. I was jumping obviously from a full frame past the crop down to a micro four thirds system. I was nervous because I knew my camera inside out. I knew the latitude, the dynamic range. You know, I'm sure that people watching at home, when you mess with the shadow or the highlight slider, you already have an idea of how far you can push it. And that was what I was afraid of using this camera, was because I hadn't used it a whole ton and was worried about how far could I push the images if I needed to. Could it handle the usual post-processing I do, which isn't much anyway, so that wasn't a huge worry. But, you know, I still had those worries anyway. But the best compliment I got was when someone said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were using a different camera. It still felt like your style." And that, to any photographers, I'm sure you can appreciate, Chris, that's a good compliment.
Yes, definitely. No, absolutely, pal. Yeah, absolutely. That you can, and it kind of alludes to the fact that, you know, you give a good photographer pretty much any camera, and they will consistently produce good work, because, you know, it isn't real. It's so easy to get caught in this numbers game, and as a sales guy, I shouldn't even be uttering the words, pal. But do you know what I mean? Go out and learn with what you've got before you start thinking about the upgrade, like, isn't it? But
100%.
I'm gonna, in the edited version of this video, I'm gonna cut that bit out. So,
that's fine, man. That's fine.
So, you know what I mean. The trouble is, you're never gonna capture numbers. That's the reality of the situation, isn't it? You know, we're all after the, you know, that massive numbers game, but you might have the gems in your bag already, you know.
Exactly.
It sort of goes back to what we said at the start, Tommy, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Your 5D Mark III, you've had it for some time. If it ain't broken, you know, you don't necessarily need to fix it. A nice new lens might make all the difference, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I keep investing in new lighting modifiers to give me a unique look. I've got a camera, I don't need a new camera. Okay, yeah, it would be nice to have those features in those newer cameras, but you know, as you said, it's not broken. As a stills camera, the 5D Mark III is a beautiful camera. When I upgrade the camera, it will be ultimately for more video specs, because I do a lot of video and YouTube as well, and at the moment I use my sister's GH5 when I'm doing little bits to camera, because the 5D Mark III doesn't have autofocus in video mode, etc. But so when I do upgrade, it's more from a video point of view and less from a stills point of view. So if you're just a stills person, you know, it still does the job for me.
All cameras are very capable these days. You know, I don't think I could name a duff camera on the market at the moment. Do you know what I mean? So,
do you know? And you might appreciate this, Krish, because I used to when I used to work at Jessup selling cameras, like, and I'm sure you'd get the same old question, like, so what's better, Nikon or Canon? You'd always get that question. Do you know what I used to say, Krish?
Go on.
I used to say, it's like Harry Potter. You don't pick the camera picks you.
Camera picks you. Oh, mate, I'll tell you what, pal. You know when you mentioned earlier on about being a Nikon shooter first and then moving over to the Canon, I was that tempted to say, oh, so you saw the light then? Because you watch now, the views will go.
It'd be interesting. We'll know if we've got Nikon or Canon viewers in a sec.
Yeah, indeed, but it's like I said, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's banter, it's harmless. You know, long may it continue, innit?
100%. Definitely, if you work in doing the job you do and the job that I used to do, very similar, you appreciate all of the brands, you know that they're all capable, and people that like, oh, I would use Canon and nothing else because it's the best. Just like I use Canon because I'm used to it, and maybe I'm an old dog, and you can't teach me a new trick. It doesn't mean that I know that Nikon make great cameras. It's just what I'm used to, and if you're a working professional, you don't want to be learning while you're supposed to be getting paid shooting someone. So, I don't have a huge amount of time, except when I'm in lockdown, to experiment and try new things most of the time. But
very true. That's it. Bro, but there we go. Come on then, dude. Back to the images, buddy. We went off on a little bit of a tangent there, didn't we?
It's a good tangent. So to give again, let's give you more perspective. I've got again another clip that I would love to show you. Again, just filming on the top of my on my camera bag. So again, as you can see here, this is now when I'm affiliated with Pixpro. So we're now using an even better flash and an even bigger softbox, a more advanced. Well, I say advanced. It's just now I can actually change the power of my flash from the camera rather than the Harnell system back in my Sri Lanka days. So we're using here two Pika 200s, otherwise known as AD 200s, and I'm using the dual bracket system, which allows us to mount two instead of one, so it effectively becomes a 400 watt strobe. And the main reason we ended up with this system was because there were situations where I wanted maybe a backlight, so I wanted two lights. And the beauty of this system is I had in my pocket a speed light head already in my pocket that goes on a Pika 200. So I would say to Alex, my assistant, I think I'm going to want a backlight. So he takes one of them off. I then hand him the head that was in my pocket. He then puts that on. Already attached to that head is a Magmod gel and a Magmod grid. Right. So in seconds, we've gone from one light to two lights, already modified, and he flicks it to B, so I know that I can then control that independently. And then in seconds, we've gone from one light to two lights. So that was the reason we chose that system. And plus, if we only needed the one light, we had a bit more leeway when it came to recycle time and power, obviously, to to be able to get the exposure we wanted, or go TTL if we indeed wanted that, and which I think we did. So in this shot we did. So this shot coming up, we shot actually at f1.4, but obviously because I was using micro four thirds, that's more the equivalent of 2.8 in full frame sensor. I think, is that right?
It's about I think you got it bang on there, dude. Yeah, it's about a stops difference, roughly, isn't it?
So okay, so here we go. So here, look, I'm telling Alex where I want it roughly positioned, introducing myself. And that's an example of one of the images within seconds of the other one. I don't have the exact behind the scenes clip from the shot that you saw, but here is a shot that I took. Excuse me. This was, yeah, as I say, f1.4 from the same family, from the same tribe. This is, again, the Mercer tribe. And what was funny was after I took the shot, she took the lip plate out and she handed it to me and said, want to buy? And I was like, no, that's all right. Thank you very much, though. That's okay. No problem. What's interesting, if people don't realize, is that it's a sign of beauty, but it was actually way back in the day. It was actually used to purposely disfigure women so that they wouldn't be used as slaves. That was actually the true reason that they started introducing lip plates. But now today, the bigger the lip plate, the sign that you are more beautiful.
Wow.
It's weird how that transitioned.
Yeah, that transition from connotations, isn't it? Come on.
Yeah,
that's a stunning photo, dude. Really nice shot.
Thanks, man. I kind of like the composition, how it's all quite equal. You got the big hay houses either side, and just the composition, how everything's just dead center. I really like how even the her headpiece is covering her eyes again, almost dead center. It was just it was screaming to be centered.
Do you know with the flash there, and you've got that little highlight just over on her left shoulder there. It almost looks like that's a backdrop. You know, it's like do you know what I mean? That separation like kind of gives it that air to it, where we know it wasn't shot in a studio, but it could have been shot in a studio. Do you know what I mean? And it's always that. I'm always intrigued with that, dude. Do you know what I mean? I'm very intrigued with that. It's almost working it out without ever seeing any BTS. It's hang on a minute, right now is that CG or is that real? Do you know what I mean?
It's an interesting point, Chris, and it's actually so in hindsight, I would have probably have liked to have shot it at a deeper depth of field, because I think that is actually the worry of shooting too shallow, is that it can just feel like CGI or a backdrop. Whereas I think if I'd have shot this maybe deeper, it would have maybe looked more real. But it's interesting point that you said about the backlight, and because sometimes people ask me, well, if I want two lights, if I want to recreate the sun, can I do that, or is it just too much faff to take two lights? Well, in this situation, if there is sun, use the sun as your second light source. You don't have to have a second flash to recreate sun. If you've got sun there, then use it as their backlight. You wouldn't obviously use it as their key light because it's not going to look good. You know, that's what you got your softbox for. But if you've got a sun there, then use it to your advantage and use it as your backlight, and then try and balance that ambient light, that sunlight, with your flash. And if you can get that balance, then you've got a two light setup without bringing two lights on location.
There we go. Bro, it's good insight though, dude. Do you know what I mean? For somebody, we've had a couple of comments in there, dude. You know, people have started to, who have never considered sort of using flash outdoors are now considering it.
Amazing.
Let's have a little look.
I'm sorry, folks. Because of the way we're sharing the screen, I can't even see Krish. I'm just looking at the camera, and I'm hoping he's there. But I can't see people's comments. So I'm not ignoring you, but I'm sorry that I can't show you a before. But to give you context, if this shot you're looking at right now was taken without flash, they would just be a silhouette. All you would see is the kiss of light over her left shoulder from the sun, because that is what you can see. That's what's been exposed, because it's obviously there in the image. But if the flash hadn't have gone off, then they would just be a silhouette. And some people will often say, well, how do I balance ambient and flash? It's quite hard to get your head around. But a quick tip that I like to say is, before you even turn your flash on, get an exposure reading of the sky. So make sure that sky is reading at 0 in your in-camera meter. Once you've dialed that in, once your sky is at 0, then you take a shot. Then if you're happy with the look of the sky, that's when you bring the flash in. So presumably at this stage, the sky looks good, but now your subject is dark. But that's okay, that's what we want. Because now when we turn the flash on, that's when we now light up your subject. And you've dialed in your settings on your camera, so you don't need to change those because you've dialed those in. The sky looks good, the background looks good. All you now need to do is just worry about turning that flash up or down. If they're too bright, then just bring it down. If it's too dark, etc. So you don't need to dial your settings on your camera because you've already done that. So that's the way I would do it. That's the order I would do it. So first of all, get your sky looking good, dial the settings in on your camera with your ISO, etc. And only then after that can you then think about switching your flash on. Don't switch your flash on at the start because it would just confuse you. Even now I do that. I'll start with the ambient and then turn my flash on and get that balance there.
That's it. Brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant. It comes across. They're fantastic, pal. Absolutely fantastic what you've shown so far.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Hey, pal, I'm a backpack full of compliments, pal. I'll keep them coming all night if you want.
I think I don't think I've got. I might have a couple more. That was just a lot of my travel stuff. Oh, this was actually this was my first personal project. So I for those of you that have been tuned in for the whole thing, well done for tuning in for the whole thing. But if you remembered towards the beginning, I mentioned that I gave Pixapro a few behind the scenes videos, and based off of the strength of the videos, they took a chance on me. And this was one of the images, and there's a behind the scenes video again that I'll show you in a sec. This was again one of the images I showed them that made them really kind of coined onto me and want to work with me. And when it comes to personal work, guys, if you are a photographer and you're kind of stuck in a rut, personal work has made me fall in love with this industry. I nearly quit this industry. I nearly quit this job because after a couple of years in being a full-time freelancer, I was so stuck in a rut doing the same old thing, just doing corporate headshots. And I decided that I would start doing personal work. So my goal and your goal moving forward is I want you all to do one personal project a month, doing one idea for you, no one else, no client involved, no worry about what other people are thinking or looking over your shoulder, doing one personal project a month. And this was one of my first personal projects. I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have like a girl waking up from a dream, but she's still almost in the dream, kind of that rough concept. So I just bought a blow-up bed from Argos for about £40 and found a lake nearby in Maidstone, and we shot it. And no one's going to ask you to do these out there concepts, so you've got to prove your worth first. You've got to do these concepts first, and then and if you put that on your portfolio, then that is what people will contact you to do. That you'll get brands, or you might get people asking for something similar rather than just headshots, for lack of a better word, because it's not the most creative. I appreciate that, but a lot of us do it and it pays well, but we can agree it's not the most creative thing in the world. Doing stuff like this is super creative, and doing personal work, as I say, has made me fall in love with this industry again, and it just allows me to flex my creative muscles, if you like, and it's something that I always do, and I encourage you all to do it.
Definitely wise words there, dude. Real wise words there. And that's a great photo again. Really good, dude.
And again, look, here is again my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please do check out my YouTube channel. There's so many behind the scenes videos on there, including the lake shoot, and again using off-camera flash. This is with a Lasterlight one. So again, this is just a clip way back in the day. We're going back about 5 or 6 years now. This is one of my first personal projects, but this will hopefully give you context and an idea of how we set this up.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Is that a drone shot, mate? That shot coming down there, or is that was that like a monopod? Oh, it is a drone. It is a drone, is it?
It was a drone, yeah. We've only had it on a couple of shoots, but we've had, if it warrants it, if we're doing something big outdoors, then we'll get our friend in to fly the drone for some shots.
Absolutely brilliant, mate.
It's
a different production value to your behind the scenes work, doesn't it?
Definitely. So this is an example here, guys, of my older older work behind the scenes. And what I'd love to show you actually is a comparison of something that we've done more recently. So in terms of production, and so one of my first personal projects, we did a ballet shoot, and for I was thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great to almost revisit the idea of doing a ballet shoot, but now 5 or 6 years later. So this next video I'm about to show you is what we did that following 5 years later. So I wanted to see if I could improve my, the production value, my skills, and the concept, everything really. So here's an example of the type of quality that we're now shooting. With the behind the scenes videos. This was shot at Chatham Historic Dockyard, which is round the corner from where my parents live, because I've only just recently moved out of my parents' house. So this was round the corner. This video is talking all about overcoming your creative block.
This was, do you know what? After that photography show, this was one of the first videos that I found on your YouTube channel, and I'm almost certain I slid into your DMs on Instagram to ask you where this location was, pal. I'm sure I did. And do you know what? It took you 3 days, but you got back to me, mate.
Oh, I'm sorry, Krish.
You're all right. Oh, you're okay. You're okay. But no, I'm absolutely. This was absolutely fantastic. The image. Have a look. Hang fire, guys. Right, we'll get Tommy to pause this in just a second. The shot.
Well,
right.
The next shot is the shot, because I realised that the backdrop wasn't quite working, so we just scrubbed it. I thought, why did I bring a backdrop in a place like this? I didn't need to, so we moved the backdrop out the way, and in a sec, okay, yeah, it's coming up here.
Yeah, look at that. Good. Yes, mate. That's it. Hollywood, pal. You're done. One shot. You're happy now, pal, right?
Oh man, I was so happy when I got that shot, and this was relatively at the start. So yeah, pretty much what you see is the timeline of what actually happened in the order in which the shots were taken. So this was quite early on, and I tell you, when you get a good shot early on, it does fill you with so much confidence. All the team around you just are so pumped. And when we got this at the start, I was just so happy. And this is an example of one of those videos where everything came together. Yeah. I waited 6 months to shoot in this location because the owner of this location is even worse than me at replying to emails. He took about... longer than 3 days. It was like it took 6 months to get him to say yes for us to shoot here. But I can appreciate it because Called a Midwife is filmed here. Kanye West's music video has been shot here. Les Mis was filmed here. This is the scene where Anne Hathaway got kicked out of work. This was the room that she was working in. So they do quite a lot of stuff here, and we also wanted to wait for a particular season, so I knew that we wanted to wait till summer where we'd get the nice light coming in through the windows, like here. Like it was just, everything just came together so beautifully. And again, we were saying about production value, it just makes the production value just look so epic. So yeah, we were really happy with this.
B-roll is phenomenal. Those streaks of light there. And did you use any type of smoke machine or anything like that to accentuate those rays? Or
we did, yeah.
Yeah, you did. I tell you, I know I know all the tricks, buddy.
It's all smoke and mirrors, or smoke and lights in this case. But I mean, talking about behind the scenes videos again, because it's something I'm so passionate about, and I just want to give a massive shout out to Michael Mowbray, who films all of my content, even back in the early days in the lake shoot there. He's grown as well in his skills, and we have such a great working relationship together. And he films all of my content, and I edit all of the content, so it still feels like it comes from my hand. And because I have a love for filmmaking, I have a degree in filmmaking, and I have an understanding of what I want to achieve. So Mike is very good at taking direction, and also Mike is very good at using his intuitive and saying stuff like, he'll say stuff like, "Oh, Tommy, can you pull your camera out your bag again. I want to get it again. Or he has no problem stepping in front of the model and say, right, Tommy, now I need to get a few shots of you looking like you're photographing the model. But obviously he's in the way, but in the video, it's just, you don't know it, but it's just giving me even more angles to play with, if that makes sense.
It builds that whole narrative, doesn't it, to that behind the scenes, and it goes hand in hand with these absolutely these stills are fantastic, mate. Yeah,
thanks, man.
I do. I love this set. This whole set, I think, is right up there. You know, right up there. Brilliant.
Thanks, man. We did this 2 years ago, and it's still one of my favorite shoots. I've got a brand new video coming out tomorrow, which I'm really proud of, and it's part of a new series that I'm working on at the moment called A Portrait of, and then it's someone's name. And we've got a new one coming out tomorrow, and the B-roll in that is really good. In fact, I'm going to exclusively show you a little bit of it.
Here we go. We get the drop on it, Pop.
So look, it's unlisted, so no one's seen it apart from the few people that have shown and watched it over and over. So I'll keep the mute on, but these are some of the images that we took, and this was another beautiful space. So this is kind of a hybrid system, this A Portrait of. So in this A Portrait of, I not only photograph, I also interview someone as well. So the interview is interjected with the B-roll footage of what we see here, and some of the images that we took here. So this was my friend Hazel. This is her wedding dress, and she unfortunately couldn't get married. Her and her partner chose to cancel their wedding because for various different reasons that you'll find out tomorrow. But as part of this project, she wanted to be still have some images of her in her wedding dress. And I was supposed to be the wedding photographer, so I felt almost a responsibility to do this, and I really wanted to do this. I really wanted to get some really cool and high-end shots for her. You know, she's an actress as well, so she's used to kind of being in front of the camera, and she said that it's going to empower me and it's going to give me closure, and it'll rather than the dress going to waste, for lack of a better word, I'll still have some images. So these were in a second here is an example of one of the images that we took.
Wow. Look at that.
That's all I'm going to show.
Hey, dude, we appreciate you doing that for us, mate. We do appreciate you doing that for us. There we go. Let's pop that out. Let's go back to that.
No
that framework there. Oh, dude, that was absolutely awesome. There we go. I wasn't. I know we kind of spoken about it like it, but yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow, mate. And if you don't mind, I'd quite like to share that video once it drops on our channels as well, just to give you as a way of a thank you for joining today, dude. I think we'll call it a day there, dude. That's been absolutely amazing, mate. That's been a great chat, pal. It's been a great chat.
My pleasure, Chris. Thank you so much for you and the team for having me on. I really appreciate it. I would love to get myself over to where you are and meet you and the rest of the team in person.
I think logically that's the next step, mate. As soon as circumstances allow, I'll put in my request, pal, and we'll get you down here, hopefully for a bit of a workshop, actually, mate. If you're up for that, if you fancy doing that,
100%. I would love to. I'd love that.
Definitely. I think it's it's going to be one of those to look out for in 2021. Fingers crossed, everything crossed. But listen, guys. Look, as I say, Tommy's he's not as bad as I made out. Drop him a message. Of course, I'm sure he'll be happy to speak to any of you about any of the work that we've seen today. Tommy, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for being with us. But it's been a long time in the making.
Yes.
But we finally got there, pal, which is brilliant.
Again, just thanks so much for having me. I'm only looking at the comments for the first time because I wasn't able to see them when I was sharing my screen. But to everyone watching, thank you all so much for being here. And Joyce, Ray, thank you so much for watching. Neil, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Phil, thank you everyone for you guys for watching. Sorry I didn't see your comments whilst the screen was sharing, but I really do appreciate it. Mad Tech, I love you more when you said you used the GH5.
he was right in there. I was waiting for us to come out of that then.
It's a good camera, even by today's standards. You think of the cameras that are coming out with some of their video specs, you know, some of the, you know, GH5, when was that released? It still holds up pretty good, you know, 422 10-bit. It's still a good camera.
It's still the boy, mate. Absolutely.
It's still the boy. Like it.
I got a lot of time for that camera system. I really do. I got a lot of time for it, mate.
Got a lot of time for you, GH5. Got a lot of time.
That's the way. That's the way. But yeah, no, dude, there's been some really brilliant comments in here. It looks like everybody that's stuck with us for the whole hour and 40 minutes has really enjoyed. Guys, we really thank you for joining me.
Has it been that long?
It has. You know what? Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
It does. Thanks, Sam. By the way, that comment just there. That's kind of exactly the style I go for. So as you probably saw in some of those studio images, is that this weird ring flash that's attached to my camera. It's that gives it that air of painterly quality to it. It's that modifier that I absolutely love. It's I'm doing a video of that modifier on my YouTube very soon, so stick out for that. My retrospective review on that light and how it achieves that kind of painterly quality to it. So Sam, please do check out the YouTube and keep your eyes peeled.
That's the way. Lovely, guys. We're going to leave that one there. Tommy, have a lovely rest of your evening. All right, matey. I'm going to go fill up this glass of wine once more and chill.
Good man.
And man. I'll keep in touch. All right, pal. We'll speak very soon. Okay.
Sounds good, man. Take care. Thanks.
Take care, guys. All right. Look after yourselves. Bye-bye.